Hello and welcome to the Oregonian Sports Podcast. I'm columnist Bill Oram, joined as always by Brenna Greene. Brenna, how are we this week?
We're good. We're dandy. We're counting down the days to vacation over here, okay? We got,
Not cool.
Yeah, yes, I am. So
I've got two kids. There are no vacations. Vacations are more work than work.
That's what I have heard. That is what has gotten down to me through the grapevine about parenting.
I can't even like you look forward to vacation. I look forward to like maybe a dinner with my wife. Like that would be a vacation. So, yeah.
Well, there you go. You know, different strokes for different folks over here. So
send a postcard.
Yes. Yeah. How are you?
Brenna, well, I think I just gave you a pretty good hint about how I am. They're 8-4. That's how I am.
Oh.
And also my son's preschool. This is turning into the parenting podcast, the Oregonian parenting podcast.
I love Parent Corner on Bill Simmons' podcast, so I'm fine with it.
So, my wife is a nurse. She works nights. She worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights. And so she comes back finally after those 3 night shifts, totally wrecked, needs to catch up on sleep for like a day or more. And we realized midweek that our 4-year-old's preschool that he attends was closed Monday and Tuesday for parent teacher conferences. So not only was I like, the point person on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Shout out to my mom, by the way, for coming and watching our 4-year-old so I could be with you at the Oregon spring game on Saturday. See, sports, there it is. But, mostly like, I'm the parent of record for those 3 days. And then the school is closed for an additional 2 days for me to be the parent of record in that situation. So we're barely hanging on over here. But it is Wednesday. The preschool is open for business, and so is the sports podcast. So let's go.
All right, let's hit it.
Okay, so we're going to get to the Oregon spring game. I think there's some really important takeaways from that. Certainly in contrast to Oregon State's spring game. Sorry, I'll try not to go there too much, but I mean, it's pretty unavoidable at this point.
It is unavoidable.
And, but the thing that I think, the story of the week or the story of the month or, whatever we want to call it, to me was Bo Nix going 12 overall in the NFL draft to Denver, and the Ducks putting 8 players in the NFL draft, which was a school record. And I'm just curious, were you as surprised as I was? And nothing surprises me, by the way, so I should be clear. I just wasn't in position to be ready for Bo Nix to go 12 overall. Like I knew Denver liked him. Like that was obviously one that we had heard, but that one caught me off guard. How about you?
Well, that day I went down and interviewed Dan Lanning right before he got on a plane to go to Alabama. Like literally he got into our interview and, just a few minutes later was leaving, basically. I spent a grand total of 9 minutes with Dan Lanning.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Hey, you gotta take it where you can get it. So because he was headed to Alabama to be with Bo, I think I kind of had some sort of thought of like, he's probably going there because he knows something. So I don't think I was super caught off guard by it just because of the fact that, that's a crazy day to pull. Like he literally went from team meeting. I mean, I don't know if you saw the social video that Oregon did, which by the way,
I did.
Took one of the sound bites I posted on Twitter and just used it. I would have appreciated an ask at the very least, Oregon video department. Anyways, so went to had the team meeting at 7, had practice at 8, came in, did our interview for 9 minutes, got on a plane an hour later to go to Alabama. Went to Alabama, came back. I think they got back at like 2 a.m.?
I feel like 2:30 was on the video, but yeah.
And then had to be at practice by, I had to be in the building again by probably 7 o'clock. So, you're not pulling that kind of day unless it's probably you have some intel, I would imagine. So I wasn't as caught off guard just because I kind of knew the sequence of events that was going down in Dan Lanning's sphere. And because of that, I just thought, okay, like this probably means something high is coming. High for Bo Nix is coming. So I wasn't as caught off guard.
Not surprised he was a first rounder. Not surprised it was Denver.
Yep.
You know, I think the run on quarterbacks that we saw, I think probably made Denver say, "Hey, we're not gonna chance this. We're not gonna mess around with trading down or anything like that." But I love the fit there. I love him working with Sean Payton. Sean Payton obviously has, basically had one quarterback most of his coaching career in Drew Brees, and I think that that is going to be a really good partnership for Bo. Sean Payton's at the beginning of what should be a long runway in Denver, and he's going to believe in Bo. And I don't know. I probably am a bit of a homer on this subject, and by that I just mean because I watched Bo Nix so much over the last 2 years. I didn't see every pass he threw. Like sometimes I was at Oregon State, but I feel like every time I saw Bo Nix, he blew me away, and his ability to win different ways, his ability to adapt and, not be as dependent on his feet in his second year at Oregon, making every throw, not turning the ball over. I mean, that's going to be more difficult at the next level, but I just feel like he is not the most skilled or athletic, quarterback you're going to come across.
Yeah.
But he understands how to play his position at a truly elite level. He makes the throws. I mean, people want to rag on his arm, and I'm like, well, how often does he need to throw the ball 80 yards? Like he obviously has connections with his receivers. He hits them downfield. And that said, you don't need to throw the ball 40 yards all the time. He's really good in those in between and shorter passes. And I know you want to be able to see a quarterback that can, put it in a trash can from end zone to end zone or whatever. But I just think Bo's going to be a really good pro. I don't know if he's going to be, I don't know what I was wondering going into the draft. I was contemplating what a redraft of these quarterbacks will look like in 5 or 10 years, because, obviously all 6 of those quarterbacks that went in the top 12 aren't going to become franchise players. That just isn't what history has taught us. It's too difficult to succeed at the next level and to make that jump. But I just think he's going to be really successful there. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know, what the comp is necessarily, but I just feel like he's going to be really successful.
Well, I think he's set up to have a smooth transition at the very least, because you have the guy that you had under center for a year competing for that starting center spot next year, and Alex Forsyth. Like, what a boon for both of them to have this year's worth of experience with each other under their belt. There's no getting to know each other. It's only improving on that connection. So that is super awesome for them. And then you add in the Troy Franklin of it all, and that's nice to have a receiver that you would have 2 years of experience with. So he's coming into a situation where obviously the head coach really likes him. I think the head coach said that, like, they left a workout of his, and Sean Payton looked around and was like, did we really just see what we saw? Like, he loves them. And then you add in these 2 pieces that are incredibly important to succeed as a quarterback, and it's built in. I mean, how many quarterbacks go, I think the center, everybody talks about skill positions, but that center relationship is so important in the NFL, and it is so rare you go into that and have some previous experience. And those 2 obviously have a really, really strong connection and have only spoken incredible things about each other. So Bo is going into a situation where he is going to be he has all the tools to succeed. We'll see what happens, but he has all the tools. I'm very excited to see them play in Seattle next year.
And I guess I would just say, like, I mean, this is an intangible thing, and I think this is probably true of a lot of guys who, reach this level and make it to the NFL. But Bo is, I mean, I'm going to sound like a bad TV person when I say this. Not someone like you, but a bad TV person.
Okay.
Which is like, Bo Nix is a football player. like his identity is like, and I'm not saying that there isn't more to him. I think there is. I think he's a person of depth, but like he is all about being a great football player. That's his mission. Again, more depth. I think he has aspirations beyond football, but he is a dedicated student of the game, a very thoughtful student of the game. We talk about like, football IQ. Again, these are just buzzwords that I'm embarrassed to be using, but they do all apply to Bo. And I think that I think he is ready to be a professional. You do 6 years of 5 years of college football. 6 years? I don't even know. 7 years? 11 years? How many years of college football did he play?
5. He played 5.
Three at Auburn and 2 at Oregon.
Yeah.
Sorry, I lost track. The numbers don't go that high for me because I only think at a preschool level education these days. But
why is that not surprising to me?
I know.
Per our previous conversation. Continue.
I just think really highly of Bo as a person and as a mind.
Yeah.
And so I think that he's going to be. I think he's going to be successful. You mentioned the wide receiver piece of this, and I just want to touch on this because everybody watching the first 2 days of the draft, and especially if you were following along on social media, everybody was like, WTF.
Yep.
Where's Troy Franklin? So, I just really wanted to make that joke. But WTF, where's Troy Franklin?
Bill, other people may have made that joke, but I had not heard it.
No one else
now.
has made that. No one's made that
no
joke.
One's
That's
made
the
that
point
joke.
of me making that joke.
Oh, okay.
You don't come to the Oregonian Sports Puncast to hear me recite other people's jokes. This is my domain.
You said everybody was saying WTF, where's Troy Franklin? So I thought other people had made that joke. You know what, Bill? You know my thoughts on your puns sometimes, but that one's in your top tier right there. I'm down for that one. That was a great one. Kudos to you. Snaps. Okay.
Finally, thank you. That was the reaction I wanted in real time. So we're gonna back this up and do it again. We're not. I was entertained by the social media angst and reaction to Troy Franklin falling.
Yep.
People saw him as probably a second round, third round pick, ends up going in the fourth round. USC and I guess Oregon State fans, Washington fans were having a lot of fun at Oregon fans' expense over Troy Franklin not getting drafted. Which there's a whole conversation to be had about like what is good fan trash talk and what is just crossing the line.
Yeah.
I didn't really think that particularly crossed the line, especially because it's not like Troy Franklin is not going to play professional football. Like, yes, you want to be as high of a pick as you can. There's more money being a higher pick, but it all shakes out. And everybody's like, oh, what a great situation for Troy Franklin. And the league is littered with 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round picks who make a huge impact. I mean, Mr. Irrelevant just led a team to the Super Bowl. So
yeah,
I guess and I'm not an NFL guy in the way a lot of people are. So maybe I am more casual about this, but like you're in the NFL. You're going to have a lot of opportunity if you're Troy Franklin. You're going to ended up in a great situation with your college quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously a very astute and credible coaching staff. I just think that it's a good situation, and that's all you can ask for. And that's why, like, even like the Bo thing, like, oh, but did Bo go too high at 12? Well, not if it's a good fit. Not if they're going to invest in him and develop him, and like he does what they want him to do. And I think that that's where we get into with drafting. There are not there is no objective measure. There's no comprehensive measure of these players. In any sport, like it is still a guessing game, and it is about feel and fit, and that's why GMs get fired is because they make decisions that other people wouldn't have made, and they sometimes don't work out. But I just find it is just an inexact science, and so Bo Nix going to a place where they wanted him, that's great. He wasn't too high or too low. He was in the right spot because he went to somebody who wanted him. Same with Troy Franklin. Even though I guess I'd have to look, but I'm assuming the Broncos passed on him a couple of times to get to him. By the way, talking about the Duck pipeline to the Denver Broncos, don't forget that kicker Camden Lewis also signed with the Denver Broncos.
Oh, well, there you go.
The parade of Ducks to the Mile High City continues.
There you go. I didn't even know Camden Lewis signed there. There's a lot of the Saturday of the NFL draft is always kind of a crazy one for us because it's always the day that obviously a lot of people go from around here, but also we always have that spring game we have to be keeping tabs on at the same time. So sometimes you miss some player signings in there. So good for Camden. Is that a good transition or what?
I'm glad you said that. And I wanted to ask, what did you make of the juxtaposition of we're sitting in the press box at Autzen Stadium, a beautiful day, a little wet, but beautiful by spring and Oregon standards nonetheless. One thing I will say, sitting on that side of the stadium, looking out across Eugene over the trees, really is it's a peaceful experience.
It never gets old.
And then we watch 300-pound men try to bash each other's heads in for 2.5 hours. But the tableau is peaceful. What did you make of the juxtaposition of on the TVs, leading up to the spring game? We've got the NFL draft on every TV, and it seemed like every few minutes another Oregon player was getting drafted. I'm exaggerating, but obviously a busy couple of days for the Ducks. And then the Ducks are kind of turning the page to the next season. I wrote about this as sort of the circle of life, but also sort of as a resurrection of, just this juggernaut that seemed to not really miss a beat. How did you sort of take in that whole day and those two components kind of playing out at the same time?
It was very fun driving down to Eugene and that run in the fourth round that Oregon had, because I got in the car right about when it started, maybe right after. I think it was about right after it started. So that was really fun to be in the car and just watch, that fourth round where it was there. I guess you weren't watching, but watch on social media, whatever. Just be like, oh, that guy just got took. That's wrong English, but you know what I mean. That guy just got taken. The other guy got taken. Whatever. So that was really fun, to watch and see. I also was really surprised that JPJ was there on Saturday. He
flew back Friday night.
Yeah. Shout out to JPJ. I'm still upset, by the way. Did I ever tell you about my story I did with JPJ?
Jackson Powers Johnson, the center of the Oregon Ducks, who got drafted by the Las Vegas Raiders. No, you've never told me this story.
Okay, well, do you know that him and Casey Rogers are they compete with each other over everything and are avid golfers. Maybe not avid, but they go golfing a lot. And so whenever one loses to the other golfing, they have to go in front of the media and say that they lost to the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to go mini golfing with them before the bowl game to have it all on camera and hash it out. And it would have been very fun. And I'm very disappointed that Jackson had to declare for the NFL draft and not play in the game. I mean, how lame, truly. Should have been thinking about me. Okay? Come on. I think it would have been very fun.
That is fun and would have been a good one. Also, it would have worked out perfectly because the Fiesta Bowl had their media event the night before the game at not even a mini golf establishment, but a putting establishment. I don't know how to. I mean, I'm sure there's a way of explaining this. With real greens, right? Like an indoor facility with actual putting greens, and there are 18 holes, but no windmills or clowns that spit it out of its ear, just actual greens. I did watch Todd Miles from the Oregon Sports Information Department bury about an 80-yard putt, and that was dang impressive. And if Todd Miles is listening, I know he fancies himself quite a golfer, and that moment proved it for me. So Todd, good on you. And Brenna, I mean, you could have had Todd, even if you couldn't have JPJ and Casey Rogers.
Todd, you're up, buddy. I can't think of anything Todd would want to do less than be on camera for anything. Yeah, it was. I guess I'm just kind of used to it now, being the second year of having their spring scrimmage be on that NFL day. So I didn't really think about it on the NFL draft day. So I didn't really think about it like that. But I think that's a good point. And I mean, Saturday was overall a successful day for everybody involved. So good for Oregon.
Here's why it jumped out to me. Because yes, I mean, it's not new to have, the spring game on the day of the NFL draft. Like you said last year, totally the same thing at Oregon.
Yeah.
I was struck by it because Oregon lost so much, right?
Yeah.
If you put 8 players in the NFL draft, that means you're taking 8 NFL players off of this roster.
Mm-hmm.
And it speaks to sort of the way of the world now that you can replace those players not just with, capable replacements or guys who are as good, but in some cases guys who are going to be better, guys who, have a higher pedigree, were higher ranked coming out of high school. And I was struck by the fact that, like, on the day they finished putting 8 players in the NFL draft, as well as, however many signed and, or going to be professionals still to come. You're watching the spring game, and not that you can tell a whole lot from a scrimmage, because it is a scrimmage, and, teams against themselves will always look good because there's like a self-leveling element. But, like, I mean, everybody talks about this Oregon team like they're going to be a preseason top 4 team, a favorite in the Big Ten. They bring in an All-American caliber quarterback to replace Bo Nix, who's one of the all-time greats at Oregon now. And it's just like, it's just striking to me that you can lose that much, and just and I wrote it this way, that the machine can just keep rolling. And I think it's cool. I think it's cool from the standpoint that you were good last year, you can be good this year. It speaks obviously very highly of Dan Lanning's ability to recruit high caliber players. Obviously, they've had a ton of success on the field. I mean, they've only lost to Washington and Georgia and Oregon State the last 2 seasons, which is, pretty darn remarkable. But I also, and I had somebody email me and say, by calling them a machine, or, like, treating it like a robot, you are underselling, like, the personalities and the distinct character of these individual teams, which I think is totally true. And I think that plays out over the course of a season. But in a macro standpoint, it just feels like Oregon is like Oregon football is like a renewable resource now. Like, it doesn't even matter who these players are. They are recruited to do a specific job and to fill a specific role and to be a specific thing. And then when they're gone, they'll be replaced by somebody who's as good or better, because Oregon has the resources and the prowess to go get them. And I haven't quite wrapped my arms around this yet, but I do feel like it sort of takes something away from the fan experience when, like, and again, this is year to year, and maybe this won't play out over a 5 or 10 year period, but if there's no risk of there being a drop off next year, like, if you're not like, oh gosh, I can't believe we're going to lose, 5th year senior so-and-so out of the, linebacker so-and-so because he's been so great for 5 years, how will we ever replace him? You can go replace him because it's happened every year. I think it just takes some of the, like, the risk out of fandom. I don't know. I'm probably gonna have to talk about this in therapy more than here, but it's something I've been toying with.
You're workshopping it. Yeah. The risk out of fandom. That's really interesting. It's an interesting thought. It needs more thought, but I like the premise. I like the overall premise of taking that risk out of fandom, and, like, how does that impact fandom then, in a way?
But I think, like, because this is the way it's been at Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and I think that the risk is just probably elevated now, where it's like, there's no question, like, you're not worried, like, is Oregon going to be good next year, right? They're going to be good. If you're Oregon State, you have no idea. If you're Colorado, you're less sure, right? Like, you're like, how good are we going to be? But Oregon's going to be good. Oregon is built to be, great. So, last year they win 12 games. Everybody's kind of like, should have been in the CFP, like, kind of a disappointment. And so the margins just get a lot smaller, because that risk of fandom, I guess, is still there. It's just like trying to break that ultimate ceiling of, can we win a national championship, as opposed to, can I go see my team win, 8 or 10 games this year? Like, it's just the bar has been raised to such a point that now it's really it's just a very, black and white thing. Like, are we able to achieve the ultimate goal or not?
The thrill level has been raised when you're yes. Do you have any general thoughts on how the spring game went in general, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, Tez Johnson is going to be an All-American, a first-team All-American receiver, because he's fantastic, and he's going to be the number one option for Dillon Gabriel, as we saw just throughout with the chemistry they're building. And so, I mean, there's that. We kind of knew that. The receivers are going to be well fed by Dillon Gabriel. I was, of course, impressed by Jay Harris, the running back who transferred from Division II, was the Division II rushing leader, I believe.
Mhm.
He looks ready for this level. I mean, there was, there were a lot of drives where he was getting heavy touches and, very much looked the part. So I'm excited to see him, but I think he's going to be really good. And Jordan James as as the featured back, probably, replacing Bucky Irving. He was kind of the change of pace back, the more bruising back for the last 2 years behind Bucky Irving. He's going to be a much bigger figure in that backfield. So I think he's ready. I just, again, hard to tell from a spring game, but you look down there, Oregon looked the part. They looked the part of a Big Ten team. They were running the ball, effectively. They have a rotation of backs. Dillon Gabriel, of course, is going to be ready. He's played 5 years of college football at this point. And by the way, he has a chance. I looked this up the other day. Has a chance to pass Case Keenum for the all-time passing record. But of course, it would be with significantly more
Yeah.
games, because Gabriel already 5 years under his belt. Keenum played all 5 at Houston. Sorry, this is probably much more interesting to me actually looking at the chart that I have pulled up here. But basically, through 5 seasons, Dillon Gabriel's thrown for 14,900 yards roughly, and Case Keenum threw for 19,200, which is the record. So the question becomes, does he have 4,300 yards in him this season, which you would just think, considering he has thrown for that many yards. Well, no. Okay, so this is 36.53 his freshman year, 36.60 last year. I mean, are there 4,300 yards in him? I mean, that doesn't seem crazy with the receivers Oregon has.
It doesn't seem crazy with the receivers Oregon has, and it also doesn't seem crazy when you add in the fact that he is going to play even more games this year than he. Yeah. I guess I shouldn't say he is.
Good point. Really good point. With the expanded playoff, yes. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Bo Nix threw for 4,500 yards last year.
Yeah. Okay. So Bo Nix threw for 4,500 yards last year, and he did not get an extra game. And because if he would have been in the college football playoff, he would have had potentially another game if they would have won. So you have that, and yeah, you add in the fact that they could technically have, if you really want to get crazy, they could play 4 games. Hopefully that would be pretty that would be pretty unheard of to do that, because that means that you'd have to play in one of those play-in games, right? I think the top 4 get buys. Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
These are things I'm going to learn about in the summer. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, but that would be pretty crazy if they got 4, but you could at least have 3 games. So yeah, they could have a lot more games than what an Oregon team has ever played before.
Anybody's ever played.
Yeah. True.
What stood out to you about the spring game? Any faces in the crowd?
I kind of found Dillon Gabriel's performance to just be kind of meh. And that's not really hating on him by any means. I don't think he was particularly pleased with it either. Like, he didn't sound like post game. He was kind of like, he literally said when somebody asked how did the game go, he goes, "Well, it went." I mean, the only real time that he saw some really good success was the last drive of the fourth quarter, which I can't imagine Oregon's top defensive players were in for that drive. So, that was kind of, I think everybody kind of wanted to see him put on a show, and I just don't really feel like that happened. So that was kind of disappointing on my end. But like you said, it's a spring game. You really can't, we all know not to take a lot of things from spring games because, somebody could look incredible in the spring game and then be totally null and, not even a factor the whole season. So,
well, and especially quarterbacks, right?
Yes.
Because you've had now, I guess he's probably had 5 months, but like really, a month of intensive, time on the field with his team, learning a new offense, building chemistry with these guys. I would not expect a transfer quarterback to come in and look like a 6th-year senior in the spring game. And I would even point to, the at Oregon State last year when DJ Uiagalelei, donned the orange and black for the first time, and he went out there and it was pretty meh.
It was.
He was, and of course, Aiden Childs, had one really pretty touchdown throw, and so of course everybody was really hot for Aiden Childs coming out of the spring game. Quarterbacks take time, and it wasn't really until I think the fall scrimmage that Oregon State played where the coaches were finally like, okay, DJ is our guy. And for as much as DJ had his moments, he struggled at times at Oregon State last year. He was demonstrably the quarterback who gave them the best chance to win and the most ready guy. I mean, he's got his issues, but and you didn't see it all in the spring game is all I'm trying to say. And so I mean, I'm not worried to any real degree about Dillon Gabriel. I think that he has kind of proven who and what he is. And I don't know what the Ducks do with Dante Moore this year, what his year ends up looking like. But he's also a guy who has now some experience, playing at this level and looked okay on Saturday. I'm not going to say he was, I'm not saying he's pushing for the job, but like you do have options. You want to have 2 quarterbacks who can play for a variety of reasons. They have some experience, in Austin Novosad. So I think they're certainly deeper at that position, if not better, just by virtue of losing a guy as good as Bo Nix.
By the way, you mentioned the running back rotation. We didn't even see Noah Whittington.
Mm-hmm.
So that is going to be real fun once Noah's able to come back and play, because let's be real, going into last season, no one was talking about Jordan James. It was all Bucky and Noah. So you had Noah back in there, and that is a scary room, even if they have lost my favorite soundbite in the state in Carlos Lachlan. I'm still in mourning over that. Carlos Lachlan, the running backs coach who went to Ohio State, was the best interview in the state of Oregon. Okay? I don't care. Player, coach, anything. Carlos Lachlan was amazing. So yeah, I do have a similar thought in terms of you with the running back room. Obviously, Jordan had a great game, not only just rushing, but also receiving. And yeah, I mean, you add Noah Whittington back into that mix, and we're cooking with gas. So I'm excited to see that room come September. So, yeah, there were some good moments for the defense. There's some good things. Didn't quite meet Tosh Lapoi's bar of 10 takeaways and 3 touchdowns, but I think that's okay. I think we can live. So.
I do love that, by the way, a quick linguistics note here, that you have fully embraced the room, the running back room, the cornerbacks room, the safeties room, the secondary room, the quarterbacks room. I'm out on rooms. It's not a room to me. Is there a room? I don't see a room. I see a position. I see a collection of human beings. I'm out on rooms. You can be as in on rooms as you want to be.
Okay.
I'm out on rooms.
Okay. We have clearly marked our stake in the stand. We have marked our point in the sand here. No rooms for Bill Oram. None at all.
That's the name of a podcast. That's the name of like a spin-off podcast. No rooms for Bill Oram. I like that. He'll be like, you mean no room for Bill Oram? Like, oh no, there's always room for Bill Oram. Just no rooms.
No rooms. I just wander in the vast abyss of life.
There's just no walls, no boundaries, nothing to separate us from anyone else. It's just, yeah. Brenna, can we talk about basketball real quickly here?
Obviously.
I just want to pivot to the NBA
Pivot? You wanna
playoffs, which have
pivot?
been you have to pivot when there are walls, as we learned from Friends. I do want to touch on, so the Lakers got eliminated, the Suns got eliminated, and it sure seems like the Milwaukee Bucks are on the verge of being eliminated. And I mean, what can you say? Like, Giannis and Dame are both injured. Like, I mean, they're playing with half a deck against a really motivated Pacers team. But as the hometown podcast of Damian Lillard, how do we look at his first year in Milwaukee, assuming the Bucks do in fact go home? Dame pushed to get out of Portland for one reason only, which was to have a chance to win a championship. And at this moment, as it looks from where we're sitting, it doesn't seem like that's going to come to fruition in year one, and he's going to go home at the end of the first round, which is something he experienced a whole lot in Portland, and probably could have experienced in Portland again if he'd stuck around and the Blazers had made sort of the mid-tier moves that they probably had available to them to become a 45-win team again, something like that. How do you look at another year? Again, this is speculative a little bit because if the Bucks can get a little bit healthy for games 6 and 7, we're talking about something different. But if this does go the way it has been going through the first 5 games, how do you look at Dame's window in Milwaukee now? Because everybody's going to be a year older. Brooke Lopez is, the ageless Splash Mountain. He's getting older. Dame's going to be getting older. Chris Middleton feels like he's still kind of in his prime, but that rotating cast of players, kind of keeps turning over every year. I don't need you to be an expert on the Milwaukee Bucks, but like, is Dame going to get what he wanted out of this trade when it's all said and done?
Well, I am interested to see what actually happens with Game 6 because of the fact that Doc Rivers did say last night that he felt like Damian and Giannis were very, very close to returning.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just looking at the overall picture, this certainly doesn't feel like a team right now that is going to go out and win a championship this year. It's been a very interesting year one for Damian Lillard there, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
It is the NBA. I think at the end of the day, yes, Damian wanted a championship out of this. But I think he also is aware that going to a team and being like, oh, I'm going to win a championship here isn't exactly a realistic expectation. He wanted to be on a team that gave him a shot to win a championship. And that was certainly not happening here in PDX. So I think ultimately he gets what he wants out of the trade just because he's in a position. He'll still be in a position for at least a few years to be in the mix. But yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say that if they do get bounced in the first round, that was not exactly his vision for year one in Milwaukee. I think that's
I think what you're saying, and I would agree with, is that he has a higher ceiling with the Bucks. Yes. Or his team has a higher ceiling.
Yes.
And so, like you said, things happen. I mean, you can't control injuries. You can't control, there's a lot you can't control about the situation. You can't control, who's waiting for you on the other side of the bracket or who advances around you. But, even for the most stacked teams, things have to go right to actually win. And so things obviously have not gone right in Milwaukee. They tried to, rectify things by firing Adrian Griffin like 45 games into the season, if that, 38 games into the season, maybe. But Dame is in a position where he is closer. His team was closer. His team, at full strength would be in contention. Could they get past Boston? Could they get past uh, New York? I mean, unclear. But I think that it's really about raising his ceiling, and he certainly did that by getting to Milwaukee. It wasn't his first choice, but they will be among the favorites in the East again next year. I just feel like, and we're looking at like the Phoenix thing falling apart in year one. Like, I don't know what's going to happen to my guy Frank Vogel down there. Hope they give him another shot. He's a really good coach, but like, doesn't seem like there's a lot of synergy. The Lakers are in full on crisis management mode again, like seemingly almost every year.
We'll draft Bronny.
With LeBron's tea leaves, such as they are, and I worry that Milwaukee could be getting pretty close to that, where they're going to start looking old pretty fast. And then what does Giannis's 6-year plan look like? So next year's just going to be absolutely critical in Milwaukee, just in terms of keeping everything together because of how that franchise is positioned.
And just by the way, if Dame got his wish and would have gone to Miami, it's not like Miami right now would all of a sudden be threatening for a championship either. So this is not a situation. Adding Dame to that mix does not. They just don't look the part of a championship team right now. So it's not like Damian would all of a sudden be, lifting them to that level. So this is just how the NBA is. Sometimes things work, sometimes things don't, and sometimes things take time. So we will see how things go. But yeah, I mean, I would agree with you that next year seems like a pretty pivotal year in terms of all of that. And if he was in Miami, it would be the same situation. I mean, there's already kind of rumors out there. I was like, oh, is Jimmy Butler going to try to leave during the off season? Like, there's a lot of questions about that situation as well. So like you said, you can try to get your way onto any team that you want. You never know what it's going to be like until you're actually there. But I'm glad, by the way. I'm glad Damian Lillard still lives rent-free in Miami fans' minds. He is. Or maybe Joe Cronin. Maybe Joe Cronin more specifically. That's been the one of the only enjoyable things to watch of this postseason. That's been a true development. So here we are.
A note on LeBron James, by the way. I'm pretty entertained by LeBron's end of season tea leaves and sort of the comments he's making about his own future and the possibility of retiring, which again he said at the end of last season, and the potential of not playing for the Lakers again. He was asked directly, could this have been your last game with the Lakers? He said, I'm not going to answer that. And I just have to laugh, Brenna, and if I could have a moment.
Oh, please.
Because I've seen this all before, right? Like I covered LeBron for 4 years, not as long as many people, but like up close, where he says something that of course makes everyone start asking the really big questions. And then he's like, whoa, why is everyone talking about this or saying this? And I went through it personally where when LeBron told Jason Lloyd of The Athletic that the door wasn't closed on a return to Cleveland at some point in his career. And I wrote with additional reporting that, that was his way of, tightening the screws on the Lakers and telling the Lakers, like, stop taking me for granted. And LeBron came out in a press conference and called me out by name, saying that, this was like just completely, a fiction and it hadn't come directly from him. It's just, I have to laugh when he puts these things out into the world and then turns and acts like attacked because of how people interpret, discuss, or analyze the things that he is saying, where it's a whole lot easier to not say the things you're saying. Of course he's trying to motivate the Lakers to like get their shit together, of course, and like he genuinely may not know what he's going to do. I mean, he has a player option, he's free to leave, like maybe he should, but I just have to laugh at like him like firing these grenades and then him looking around and being like, what grenade? So I love it. I love the theater of LeBron. I'm not sad it's not my life anymore. but I am very entertained by it, especially from afar, out of the blast zone.
Yeah, that sounds like the best place to be. Nobody wants to be called out in a press conference by name by the most well-known player in the entire NBA. Probably not up there at your favorite moments of your career, but maybe it was. Maybe I'm wrong. You tell me.
Not my favorite. Fine now with the benefit of hindsight, but I will say this, and I have no reporting on this. I've not talked to anybody about like what's happening inside LeBron's head anymore, which just is as I've learned, is a dangerous place to try to get to.
Yeah.
If I had to bet, I think he's going to leave.
Okay. Well,
I think he is. I think he has seen what the Lakers can do for him, and I think he's going to leave. I think Dallas is out there. I think he's going to try something new for the final few years, and whether that involves Bronny, if he can manipulate it so that it does involve Bronny, I'm going to be really interested to see. But I think he is going to find a new home this summer. That would be my best guess.
Well, I mean, you would have more insight into the inner workings of LeBron James than most people in the Portland area. So I'm fast.
I mean,
LeBron
could
knows
he come
he's
to Portland? Let me localize this. Should the Blazers, sorry, I was back in my former self for a minute. Should the Blazers make an all-out push for LeBron James to end his career in Portland? But they could.
I mean, as the billboards once said, LeBron, come to Portland and be a great third option, or it was something like that. It was something like that.
LeBron, have you ever thought about spending the final years of your career mentoring Scoot Henderson?
I mean, I think that that's something he's always dreamed of. So let's get it going. Let's make it happen. So
I mean, gosh, maybe I need to fire up the old column machine and make the case. LeBron, there's no better place for you than in Portland. He wants to own an NBA team. Don't mess around with Vegas and the Las Vegas Strip. Forget the Strip and think about the RIP city that is LeBron. LeBron needs to come finish his career and then negotiate, then be like the face of the ownership group that eventually takes over from Jody Allen. So he would transition from player to owner. And then he would, there's already the LeBron James basketball center for children who are the size of ants or whatever at Nike. Sorry, the Zoolander reference was getting a little out of control. There's already the LeBron James building in on the campus at Nike in Beaverton. Why not just further stretch his wings? Then you trade the young guys. You sign LeBron this summer. Then you trade the young guys back to Milwaukee to get Dame back. And then you have Dame and LeBron like hoisting banners in Portland like the next 3 years.
I am truly
foolproof plan.
I am truly honored to be a part of this column workshopping session, and I think all of our listeners / viewers on YouTube should be honored as well. That was, forget the Strip. Think about the RIP. That was a second time that you've just had a great turn of phrase on this podcast. So, proud of you. Proud of you. Way to go. Way to go. I mean,
Brenna,
Bronny was considering Oregon. You'd be like, hey, LeBron, have your kids stay in school one more year. You move to Portland.
I do think, I mean, again, far be it from me to advise an 18-year-old on what to do with their life. But I do think Bronny should have gone to Oregon. I think Oregon would have been great for Bronny. I think Dana would have been really good for Bronny. Depending on what he wanted out of his college experience. I wrote columns about this last year, but I do think that would have been a really good fit. And I would have liked to have seen it. But no, I don't think LeBron is going to have any more business interests in Oregon than he already does, unless he joins Carmelo Anthony in his new pot venture that's here somehow. Anyway.
Why not?
There were billboards about that.
Oh, I know.
Brenna, before we get out of here, can you please talk to us about the Portland Winterhawks,
yes,
which are continuing to be a great story, continuing a great run through the WHL postseason, and potentially on the cusp of advancing to the championship round?
Well, You seen that? Have you seen that? I'm sure you have. I don't know why I'm asking you if you've seen that. The kid from the high school football game who said they had us in the first half. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
That was the Portland Winterhawks in game 1. They lost to Prince George 5-0. It was not looking good.
Time out. There are no halves in hockey. Even I know that.
Okay.
They couldn't have had him in the first half in game 1 because there's no halves in hockey. Do you need me to take over this segment?
They had us in the first game. How about that? Does that make you happy? Does that? I was making an extrapolation here. Okay.
I'm feeling better about the direction of this now. Thank you.
Oh Lord. But game 2 and game 3, Winterhawks have come out and taken care of business. No issues there. So tonight they play again. If they this game tonight feels like it's a pretty big deal, because if they win this one, boy, they're going to be up 3-1, and that's just going to be really hard for Prince George to come back from, especially since the way that the playoffs work in WHL is that you have 2 games away, 3, well, because of their seeding, Portland's the number 2 seed. So 2 games at Prince George, 3 games at home, 2 games away. So they do have the capability of putting this bad boy away on Thursday if they win tonight. And that would be
putting the puck in the back of the net.
That too. And so tonight's a really big game for them, because I think it's going to be pretty hard for Prince George to come back from being down 3-1, even if they were able to take one here. So, and the Winterhawks have proven that they can win in Canada now. So that's another thing that they kind of have in their back pocket already. They have that confidence, especially when they come off of a loss like game 1 where they got their booties whooped. So, yeah, it's cool to watch. I mean, this team has not won a conference championship since 2014, according to my very quick Wikipedia research. So, been 10 years. And
even I can do that math.
Way to go. Look at us journalists. We got it going, baby. We're mathing. So yeah, this is a fun team, and to be honest, there's really not a lot of fun teams to watch in the Portland area right now, because it's May and there's just not a lot going on. So this is cool to have playoff hockey going on right now, and I will be there tonight. I will hopefully be there Thursday as well. So we shall see what unfolds. But a fun team, and yeah, good times. Good times had by all.
I have a WHL question for you,
Ooh,
Brenna.
Boy.
Knowing, having limited knowledge about the WHL and the Winterhawks, but I'm eager to learn more and see more of this run. But I have limited knowledge here. But I do know that there's a team in Medicine Hat. I remember that from back in the day, and I just checked. There still is a team in Medicine Hat.
Yeah,
and they're the Tigers.
Okay.
There's a hockey team called the Medicine Hat Tigers. If you're a hockey team in Medicine Hat, why would you not name your team the Tricks, the Medicine Hat Tricks?
You know what's so funny too? I have actually been to Medicine Hat. There you go.
I mean, you could spell it with an X, which seems like a very junior hockey thing to do.
Can I tell you, as a former Montana resident, another fellow former Montana resident, why I have been to Medicine Hat? You're gonna love this. Okay, my first year working in Great Falls, Montana. This actually just recently has changed. This year, I believe it's this year it changed. Montana did not have high school baseball.
Correct.
No high school baseball teams until I think this year. Maybe last year they had them. I'm not sure. Anyways, it's very recent, the development. So in order to play baseball in Montana, you had to play in Legion Baseball. The league that Great Falls and all the other big cities were in, the Montana League also had 3 teams from Canada. Oh, you want to know what? I didn't go to Medicine Hat. I'm wrong. Medicine Hat was one of those teams. And the year that I got sent up there, because I was the closest market to Canada, so I went to Lethbridge, Canada, to go cover the state tournament. So I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I was wrong. I realized as I was talking that out, I have not been to Medicine Hat. I have been to Lethbridge, Canada. But you want to know what? Medicine Hat should have called their. You're right. Call the Legion baseball team the Medicine Hat Tricks. That's a great name.
What? Why would a baseball team be called the Hat Tricks?
Yeah, okay, you're right. That's a good call. I didn't get the reference until right now. But
That's the third time. Second time. I'm literally batting 1 for 3 with you.
It took
on
me
these today.
it took me a second, but I got there.
The Hat Tricks.
Yeah,
the Medicine Hat Tricks.
You're totally right. Just for people that maybe don't know, the WHL playoffs are the really, I guess I should say, Junior League hockey playoffs at large, are one of the longest playoff stretches that ever occurs in the history of man. It goes on forever. Because if the Winterhawks win this, then they go to the WHL finals. Then if they win the WHL finals, this year they go to the Memorial Cup, which this year is in Saginaw, Michigan, baby.
Yeah. The home of Draymond Green and Darvin Ham.
So this could be going on for a while. We don't. People are probably like, okay, WHL Western Conference Finals, one more tournament. No. There could be another series after that. So, yeah, WHL playoffs are the. I don't understand how they go on so long for kids who are, like 15 to 20 years old or something like that. But
boundless energy, lots of sugary cereals, probably. By the way, I am a big fan and a huge proponent for puns in team names, particularly minor league and junior league teams. Another one I just thought of: if there was a hockey team in Kissimmee, Florida, nearby to the Disney World Resort,
yes,
I would want it to be called the Kissimmee Skates, because it sounds like the Kiss Me Kates, the musical based on William Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew. The Kissimmee Kates, the Kissimmee Skates. I think it has potential. This is my calling, is renaming non-existent sports teams. There's got to be a consulting
you might be one of one who thinks it has that calling, but I appreciate the effort.
The Kissimmee Skates. The Kissimmee Skates.
I cannot believe that your mind got to that while I was talking, but kudos to your
I was
brain.
also listening to you, just so we know that I was listening to everything you said. I didn't miss any of it.
Sure.
Okay, Brenna, we got to get out of here.
Yeah, we do.
To really save me from myself more than anything else. But I certainly appreciate the conversation today. We'll be back next week with more scorching hot takes about junior hockey and what's going on in the world of sports around the state of Oregon and beyond. Again, Brenna Greene, KOIN 6. You can follow her on the socials at Brenna Greene with an E and an underscore. I'm at Bill Oram, but I got Twitter off my phone going a week strong, and I don't miss it, so don't at me. All right, we'll be back next week. Thank you so much for listening to the Oregonian Sports Podcast. Continue reading, watch Brenna on KOIN, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks so much.